He says, money's what you're in it for. Don't you know we're in a war? Come go haul your ass downtown me. I said, hey man, what is it to you? How do I infringe on what you do? Well, I beg your pardon if you're offended by my garden, but I just can't grow Prozac in my yard. So I grow my own medicine in my yard. I give some to my neighbor for his heart. Share it with my grandma and keeps it from her son, 'cause we all know that stuff's against the law. Well, now there's nothing growing in my yard. Those cops to call my land and both my car. Now I have to buy my pot from a teenager in the parking lot who's growing marijuana in his yard. Oh, anyone can grow it in their yard. Hey, I can show you how, it ain't hard. Never mind the president, let's overgrow the government and I'll grow marijuana in our yard. Let's grow some marijuana in our
Okay, here we are again doing another episode of Pot Talk TV, and we got a lot to talk about tonight on Pot Talk. Our governor, Cuomo, is running a scam on the American people again, the same old bullshit that they always run. Everybody's all pumped up thinking, oh, Cuomo's a great guy, he's talking about legalizing medical marijuana. No, folks, Cuomo is selling us out once again. He's not going to legalize medical marijuana the way you think he's going to legalize medical marijuana. He's talking about he's going to let it be in 20 hospitals, which means you're going to have to go to the hospital and pay a big bill to the hospital to get your medical marijuana, and you're going to probably get a government grade that's a bunch of garbage. Like up in Canada, they give marijuana with seeds and sticks, and a garbage grade that nobody up there wants to smoke. They all grow their own. And he's not going to make it in any way possible for you to grow your own. And how it'll be the same old crap. The pharmaceutical companies will be producing some kind of grade of marijuana and supplying it to the hospital, and you'll have to have a serious, only if you have cancer or lymphoma, or some serious thing, not for all the other things that we know marijuana cures or helps, right? And then the pharmaceutical companies are going to be free to sell it, and that's what they'll be doing, selling it, and anybody else who's growing it or selling it or possessing it is still going to be going to jail. And Cuomo, the only reason that Cuomo has been against legalization, when the legislature was talking about legalizing medical marijuana, Cuomo said that he would shoot down the bill. He wouldn't sign it because he knew if the legislature made it, there would be a provision in there for people to be able to grow their own. And he don't want that. He's selling us out to the pharmaceutical companies and the hospitals. Instead of you being able to grow a simple plant at home and have your own medicine without going to a doctor and having to pay a big doctor bill, now you're going to have to go to the hospital, and you're going to have to get it from the hospital, and there'll be all kinds of regulations on it. Like in a lot of the medical marijuana states, they say, well, before you can get medical marijuana, in some of them, and this is what they're going to do here, before you can get medical marijuana, you have had to have tried all the other pharmaceutical drugs to see if they work. And if none of them work, then they'll say, okay, you can have medical marijuana. But meantime, you have no choice but you have to take all these other drugs before you can get on the medical marijuana list.
They have to be sure they're not going to get any money for their other products, and they're going to lose you.
Right. And they've already given, the pharmaceutical companies now, it's mandated that you have to try all these other drugs first. So it leaves you not the person who can choose, well, I want marijuana for my medicine. I don't want Prozac. I don't want it. Now they're going to say, well, you got to have Prozac.
You're going to say you're antisocial.
Right.
You don't want it. Now you really have to have Prozac.
Right.
Imagine this guy.
I don't want Prozac, and I don't want all these other drugs that mess me up, turn me into a zombie, make me lose my mind, so I'm a walking fucking tuna fish,
To go along with the tuna box.
Right. But so all you people out there, don't cheer when you hear Cuomo is here. Because Cuomo ain't doing something for you people. It's a scam. He's doing this to circumvent the legislature making a more liberal medical marijuana law. So, and also, he wants to run for president, and God forbid if we should have Cuomo for president. Well, everybody that's running, they're all crooks. That's why I don't vote. I don't vote for criminals, But he can run on a platform that, well, he was the first governor who legalized medical marijuana in New York. And it'll play good to a lot of the rest of the country because they won't know that it's bogus here in New York, that he's really not doing anything. He's not going to make it easy for medical marijuana patients to get their medicine. And that's a fact. Would you like to add to that?
Well, I'd just like to say that, after all, New York, is a state that, what did Washington and Jefferson, were they spending, where was the marijuana plantation of Washington?
Washington was in Mount Vernon. Jefferson was, I think, Mount Vernon. Where was Washington? I forget.
Washington was Mount Vernon.
Oh, Mount Vernon. And Jefferson was where?
He was in the South more, but anyway, Hempstead. I'm on the green screen. I'm going to put up a bus with Hempstead, the Trailways bus, just showing, my fascination with history, with landmarks, with language. The reason that Hempstead is called Hempstead is
because they grew hemp, and most of the states in the early, when the founding fathers were here, the original 13 colonies, most of the original 13 colonies, if you had a certain amount of acres, it was ordered by government that you grow a percentage of those acres in hemp because they needed it to keep the economy up, and it was good. Since when we were at war with England, we needed the hemp for the sails, for the ropes, for clothes, for so much. It helped make America economically stable in those days. And that's what they're afraid of now. If marijuana was legal, I forget legal. Legal's another scam. If the law against marijuana was repealed because it's unconstitutional, then everyone could grow it. Our farmers, if they were growing hemp in this country, real soon would boom. Hemp creates ethanol better than corn, and corn is a food source, so we don't really need to use corn to make ethanol. When hemp is much more, you get much more per acre, and it's a renewable resource. It doesn't strip the land like corn does, the minerals from the land. And there's so many things that could be made from hemp. We could have a real industry in this country. In 1946, Henry Ford made a car that the body was completely made of hemp, and it was practically indestructible, the car. The original Model Ts, when Henry Ford was making it, Henry Ford had the largest plantation of hemp in this country, and he made ethanol, and the original Model Ts all ran on alcohol, on ethanol, made from hemp. Now since then, we've been able to make fiberboard that's far superior to the fiberboard that they make houses out of now. There's so many uses that they have for hemp. if America, we've got such land here. We used to be the farming country that supplied the food to the world. But now the big corporations have put all the farmers out of business, and they control all the money. They control everything. If hemp was legal in America, the farmers would be making money instead of the oil companies, because we could change our vehicles over to run on ethanol, which they have in the past, and we could not buy barrels and barrels of oil from all these Arab countries who are just, all our money just keeps going out of the country, going out of the country. We could keep that money here if we had, if we threw out this unconstitutional prohibition against hemp, against marijuana. Hemp and marijuana are the same thing. They're just different strains. One has more THC and it gets you high and it's medicine. The other has less THC and the fiber is better for industrial use. So we have an industrial grade of marijuana and a pharmaceutical grade of marijuana. And it should be every citizen's right to be able to grow as much as you want. And this, what you've seen behind me here on the screen, all that pot plants, I grew them, and I would have been independently, financially secure, except the police came and took all my marijuana. And that's what it's about. It's about keeping the people poor, not leaving any industry or any way for the people. The guys on top, like Henry Ford said, competition is a sin. So that tells you what the rich guys are about. They want to control everything, and they don't want to leave anything for the farmer to make some money, for the local people to be able to grow and pick up a few extra dollars here and there. And they say, oh, but you made money off marijuana. They make it like it's a crime. You sold some marijuana. Well, what are the big pharmaceutical companies going to do under Cuomo? They're going to be selling marijuana. But they have permission from the gangsters who run our country, and they have control of it. Competition is a sin. Now, they can do it, but you can't. How many of our brothers and sisters are sitting in jail for selling a little bit of marijuana? Yet they're farmers just like any other farmer. Do we put farmers in jail for growing corn? Well, we didn't used to, but now we've got Monsanto making all this synthetic corn and genetically modified corn. So now you can put farmers in jail because they're growing Monsanto's crop has polluted their crop. So now they either got to lose their crop or get prosecuted for stealing someone's patent rights. And the same thing with soybeans. They've done it with a bunch of stuff. Where in the old days, any farmer could grow corn, tomatoes, soybeans, whatever they wanted, and it was legal. And if they sold it, it was a farmer's prerogative to sell his crop. Why is it that if a marijuana person grows some marijuana and sells it, all of a sudden they've become a criminal? This is just so that the big money people can control all the money, and so that the little guy don't have a chance to make money. And if he makes money, remember, Rockefeller said competition's a sin. That little guy just sold a nickel bag of pot, and that nickel bag belongs to me, Mr. Rockefeller. And that $5 he took out of my pocket, so put him in jail. That's what's keeping the marijuana laws happening, people, and it's time for you to face it. And look how many of our brothers and sisters are in jail because of these bogus, unconstitutional laws. And the reason that this has gone on for so long is because you, the American people, have not done anything about it. And in the 70s, when we had 100,000 people going to Washington, and we were expecting, and we were going to build up to where we had 1 million people going to Washington. Back then, we were thinking legalize because we didn't know the law and we didn't know it like we do today. But we were trying to get it legalized. and so that nobody went to jail. And what happened? 100,000 people showed up, and then all of a sudden a couple lawyers come along, Keith Stropp and his partner, and said, we're going to do normal, and we're going to decriminalize 2 ounces, and if you people stop protesting and give all your money to us, we're going to fight, and we're going to get 2 ounces decriminalized. That was a scam by lawyers to kill the movement. Keith Stropp is not a good guy. Normal is not a good thing. It has killed the marijuana movement. It has set it back, and our brothers and sisters have suffered by going to jail because of Keith Stropp and Normal. And then along comes Marijuana Policy Project, which is another scam just like Normal. So you people out there, it's time for you to do something. Don't send $5 to Keith Stropp and Normal thinking that they're going to do something for you, because they're not. Because if you get busted and you call Normal, Normal will say to you, well, you've been busted, we'll hook you up with a lawyer. And then they will recommend a lawyer who will send back a kickback to Normal for sending you to them. And that lawyer won't go into court and say, this is an unconstitutional argument. What he'll do is say, well, I can plead you out to a lesser thing. You know what I mean? And he's not going to, none of these lawyers will go into court and say, this law was unconstitutional. It was based on fraud. It was done, every bit of it was done illegally, and the law should be abolished. No lawyer is going to do that. So don't believe that a lawyer is going to do that for you. And don't believe that these politicians, especially Cuomo, is doing something good for you people out there. Cuomo's medical marijuana initiative, or whatever he wants to call it, is a scam, people. And it's just to postpone and to set back and subvert the movement to decriminalize, what's the word I'm looking for? No, not legalize. Repeal. That's what we want. Repeal of the marijuana law. It should have never been. The Supreme Court ruled when it came to alcohol that the government didn't have a right to prohibit from the American people. Yet all the drug war is about prohibiting from the American people. I'm not particularly fond of heroin or cocaine, but it's the CIA and big business bringing in the cocaine, and it's the young people in the ghettos that are going to jail for it. It's all a setup. It's all a scam. And you people out there have allowed it to happen, so it's up to you people to start getting educated and take a stand and change it. I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Once when I was talking to Constitution Man, when I was first discovering about the co-op leases being double securitized at least, he was saying that when people think their payments are going to pay back money that they borrowed from the bank, or payments in the case of a co-op to have your maintenance taken care of, what I was saying in the show before here in Woodstock, when I first started this journey, it's after having made a payment to the bank and seeing on my receipt, thank you very much for your payment. It's not necessarily going to go to where you think it is. I don't remember the exact words, but that's exactly what it meant. So I wrote a letter and I said, well, wow, where is it going? What is this all about? And that's what started this whole journey for me in my co-op building. Later on, when I met Joe and I started to learn about the illogic of the marijuana laws, when I saw what marijuana can actually do that's so highly beneficial versus being dragged into court and to be facing many, many long years, is a very scary proposition. And that's why when you sit down calmly, coolly, and you just explain the logic to people, they see it. The problem is people are not calm and cool and collected when they're dealing with issues that have to do with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You have to get a little bit motivated to really look into it. And I'm thinking, every time I look at some of the work that I edited, even what I did last week, and I think about when this all started, when we first started to put in the lawsuits, and how much more I've learned since then. It seems even people that have this knowledge about the deep swindle that's going on, they're not that likely to just tell somebody the punchlines, even though you have a few catchwords like "I don't stand under the charges." To really understand what that means you have to familiarize yourself with criminal mentalities. And it's very difficult psychologically to think that a criminal mentality is on the shoulders of a being that you were brought up to respect profoundly.
Like a judge.
Like a judge, yeah. But it can also be a policeman. You know, you're believing that they were up, that their allegiance is to the Constitution. Their allegiance isn't to who will pay them the most, and that their promotions are going to be more insured the more they abuse the rights of people. None of this stuff did I believe. And I often said, had I been driving my father's Mercedes when we were pulled over, I don't think I would have been treated the way I was by Kevin Richards when we were busted in 2011. And so the reason I'm thinking that people who really know this won't rush up to somebody like, say, me or Joe, like Constitution Man, different people, I always felt they were kind of pulling back a little. And I'm noticing now when I talk to people around the country, I feel myself pulling back a little. Because if you have knowledge and you know what's so evil and so wrong and so bad, you want to make sure that who you're giving this to is going to do something useful with that knowledge. They're not going to become despondent, depressed, in despair, or they're not going to do the opposite. Jump into the swindle themselves and start to swindle. You don't want that to happen either. So I believe that it takes two things. It takes somebody who has the knowledge, wanting to share it for the sake of the greater common good, but it also takes somebody who's eager and thirsty for the knowledge. Had I had things kind of go more naturally, with my father passing away, with his millions leaving me something, I probably would have just paid off the mortgage. I never would have paid attention. But because it was tied into this key lock change that I could never understand why in 2004 my board would do such a bold, gutsy, and seemingly dangerous thing for the sake of rights, even though I didn't know nearly what I know about rights today, back in 2004 when I came back from India. Or no, I got a phone call when I was in India saying that my locks were changed. It's very disconcerting. You don't feel comfortable. You don't feel secure in your property and effects, right. I guess you'd say. So that's what started me on it. If I hadn't been having the different life experiences that I had, and also having kind of a temper, because the first time they suggested going to court on maintenance that was a little bit past due, since I always had a habit of being past due, because I'd write one check for every 3 months. I didn't have a secretary, and I didn't enjoy doing that, and I didn't mind paying the late fees or the penalties. It was no big deal. So all of a sudden, I get this notice from a new management company. It was a new one that came in then, and it said they wanted to take me to court. So at first I thought, oh, these cheapskates, they're using court as a bill collector. And I thought, okay, if they want to do that, I'll go down to court and I'll meet them there. So when I went down there, I always learn, you always learn. You know, when you ask somebody something and if they're not giving you an answer straight away, even in their not giving you the answer, watch how they're not giving you the answer. And then when they seem to not be giving you an answer, pay careful attention, because you'll find in the Supreme Court, in a lot of these civic buildings, people are really upset. Lydia Radin was saying now, when you're going through security over in Jersey City, she says there's all kinds of cops letting tape recorders go through because they know the fixes and they know the swindle's on. And I also went over to the sheriff's department and I asked a lady, I said, when you get a foreclosure, because I was thinking in terms of judicial foreclosure, because New York is a judicial foreclosure state, there has to be a judge's signature to say before you get out. So I never expected that there would be a non-judicial foreclosure sale. Once you have that, then when we went into housing court, you could see the judge back away from it, but she's not saying that's why she's backing away from it. She's citing another ruling so that if you want to get really involved in all of the little nuances of their little statutes that go on, you can start to play that game. But what you want to do is work with all those statutes and nuances and cut straight to the chase. Find out what's actually happening. Now, after you find out what's actually happening, then you have to go and be the bearer of bad tidings to your community. I sit down in the laundry room and work on my editing, and as people come in, that's my place where I can assemble freely with people. And at first people are kind of wondering, why am I in the laundry room with my computer editing away, and they're a little bit unsure. Some of the old timers are aware of this litigation, and nobody wants to be on the bad side of authority. Who wants to be on the bad side of authority? Nobody. But pretty soon people are realizing this isn't just some 60s hippies living on the 7th floor. This is somebody who's been there for 15 years, who's been a very consistent person with my standards and ethics, and it's been a very interesting journey. And so now what we're faced with is 26 Gramercy Park big enough for both us and the board? We don't think so. We don't think that we can keep going down this line of reasoning. We don't think that we can keep calling stock fraud. We don't think that we can keep calling and notifying all of the agencies, the FBI, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. I mean, give me an agency, I've written to them. They're all aware of what's going on. Now, Lydia Radin tells me that the FBI throws away reports. I haven't checked that out for sure, but that's next on my list. Because it's important that people are informed of every level. Obviously, the highest levels are the most important to inform. That would be the judges. That's why I keep writing letters to Judge Doris Lynn Cohen, and I keep getting answers from her attorney. These are not questions for her attorney. These are moral issues. The first one was a writ of error, saying that how did you say that I said it was to be corrected and we need an answer on that? The next was a letter to the judge.
Right. She put in a writ of error. What is it called?
Coram nobis.
A coram nobis, writ of error.
For failure to state.
For failure to for the judge. When a judge does something in court that you believe, the judge should not have ruled that way. The judge ruled in error. Now, there's a thing called, what is it called?
A writ of error.
A writ of error, but it's coram nobis, right? If you go check on the internet, especially Rod Class, coram nobis, that's the best. You can put in a thing saying, well, Your Honor, the law says this, and you ruled this, therefore you erred, and I want you to correct. It's a demand for the judge to correct the error. Now, if the judge doesn't correct the error, but you've pointed out the errors, all that is appealable. If you don't dispute, anytime you don't dispute something, you've consented to it, and you can't appeal it. So whenever a judge rules in a way that you don't like, you can put in a writ of error. Say, I want you to change your opinion because you erred, but you need to show legitimate reasons. Like you have to show the law. Say the law says, I'll just make up one here. The law says you can possess 25 grams of marijuana, right? But you had 20 grams and the police arrested you. Now you go into the court and you say to the judge, well, the law says that I could have 25 grams. I only had 20 grams, and the police arrested me. And the judge says, well, you were in possession. and possession is against the law, and then I'm going to find you guilty. Now, since you have the law that says 25 grams you can have, you can turn around and say to the judge, well, look, I told you about the 25-gram law, or if I failed to mention it then, I'm mentioning it now, that the law says that I can have 25 grams and it's legal, and therefore you erred by finding me guilty of possession when what I was in possession of was legal. So therefore you erred. I want you to correct your error and change your decision. Now the judge has two choices. Either say, you're right, I erred, and therefore I'm going to reverse myself, or the judge can say, no, I'm not going to reverse myself, but then you can appeal it to the next court because you have argued your point with the judge. You didn't accept that she said you're guilty, therefore you're guilty. What you did was you said, no, I don't accept that. I think you're wrong. I disagree. You erred in your ruling, and therefore I want a higher court to now rule on that. And if everybody started doing that and overriding these judges and going to the higher courts, that leaves the higher courts to either they uphold the law and they tell the lower judge, you're not acting in a responsible manner, you're not ruling right, which is a mark against them, which none of them like, and they don't want it to go there. So a lot of times, rather than see it go there, they will reverse themselves because they know that what they're doing is wrong. But in some cases, it's going to go to the next to the higher court, and that court, the higher court, goes a little more along with the law. They don't like to overrule judges so much, so you're still at a little advantage, but it still gives you a way to keep the fight going. And if that court doesn't uphold it, you still can appeal it to the next court. And if enough people just kept appealing it up and appealing it up, never stop fighting these people. If you just keep fighting it up, and that's why I suggest if you learn law and do the paperwork yourself, it doesn't cost you a fortune in lawyers. I fight all my cases myself. Paula fights her cases. We fight them, and we don't.
I met you.
We don't spend a lot of money on lawyers. And it makes the other side right. It makes the other side spend money on lawyers, and it makes the courts work. Well, like I give paperwork to the prosecutor. Prosecutors hate me because I give them piles of paper. I know enough law, and I stack it up, and I say, here's this argument, and then there's this argument, and then there's this argument, and the Supreme Court ruled this, and the Supreme Court ruled that, and the Supreme Court ruled this.
You won't stand under the charges.
Right. And when the prosecutors, they see my stack of paperwork, right, that's like this, and they got 20 other cases, and it's only a stack of papers like this,
for
and
all
they
20
say,
cases.
Right, for all 20 cases, and they say, well, I could do the homework on those 20 cases, or I could work on this thing that this asshole has just given me, because that's what they think I am, because I argue everything, right? So now they say, well, I don't have the time to answer this, so they don't answer me. And then I go into court and say, Your Honor, they failed to answer my paperwork. And if they don't answer, then just like for me, if the prosecutor says he's guilty and I don't say, I'm not, then you assume that I didn't contest what the prosecutor said, therefore I consent. So if the prosecutor didn't consent, didn't answer my paperwork, then he must be agreeing that my paperwork is accurate, right? So therefore, I want a ruling on my behalf since the prosecutor failed to answer. And even prosecutors have said to the judge, I'm not going to answer his paperwork. And, now how does a prosecutor get away with that stuff? He's acting completely illegal. He's supposed to answer your paperwork. But yet all the time, they go in before the judge and say, I'm not going to answer. Of course, I make them work. All you people out there should make them work.
I think the reason they don't answer is because they can't answer.
Right.
Because you're kind of blowing the whistle and you're saying the game is over, particularly by the time you get to the level of fraud.
And if you do it with law, that's why I tell you people out there, study the law. It really is not that hard. You can look up all kinds of law cases for whatever it is. If it's marijuana, if you go on the internet and start looking up all the cases on marijuana, you can find cases and all kinds of arguments to support your argument. And if you stack it up enough, the Supreme Court has ruled so many things. You know, you have a right to privacy. Why did this cop come in my house? Just because he said he smelt marijuana. That's not a legitimate excuse, which they've done to me. They said they smelt marijuana and came in without a warrant. Normally, a lawyer would have told me, well, just cop a plea to a lesser thing and pay your fine. You know what I mean? But no. I'm not going to. This cop just acted in a criminal manner. I'm not going to pay a fine.
And this is how the country rectifies itself, because everybody has to stand up as they've been abused in their own way, and everybody has a different arena. Shall I read this?
Yeah, read this.
Okay, here's our latest letter to Louis Zazzarino. It's coming
the guy
from.
Who thinks he bought Paula's apartment.
Yeah, right. But got swindled by the bank. That's what Joe thinks.
Right. Louis, you got swindled by the bank.
Okay, this is to Louis Zazzarino. He lives at 333 Mamaroneck Avenue, White Plains, New York. So again, we're all ready for the defamation of character
And if
lawsuits.
you people want to write a letter to Louis Zazzarino
Yeah, right, you
at
can
333...
Mamaroneck Avenue, White Plains, New York.
Yeah, write him a letter and tell him Joe and Paula say hi.
Louis, cease and desist from any further harassment. These harassing notes you keep leaving on our door are illegal and unlawful, and without a court order, which you don't have, they carry no weight. You have a choice. Take us to court and prove you have standing, or continue acting in an unlawful manner, and we will sue your sorry ass. We are sending you DVD copies of a few of our TV shows in which you are mentioned. That's a star, I'll get to that later. Which goes out to 650,000 households in Manhattan and 3,000 viewers in Woodstock who are following this case to see what the outcome will be. You know, let's tune into Paula and Joe. Are they in jail this week? Nope, they're still here. Are they still living in Gramercy Park? Yeah, it seems as though they still are there.
The saga of Joe and Paula.
Yeah, right. Okay. We would advise you to act in a lawful manner, since at this time you have already crossed the lawful line by purchasing what the bank could never prove it owned. You also conspired with Vincent DeVito and the board secretary to forge an unlawful and fraudulent stock certificate, since the judge in housing court told your attorney that housing court was not the proper court to hear this case, because this was a non-judicial foreclosure, which, by the way, is unlawful. That was our quotes. The judge told your lawyer that you and your lawyer must take this into Supreme Court or civil court. Yet, on Christmas Eve, in other words, this was the 26th of November when we went to housing court. Yet, on Christmas Eve, you chose to post a threatening 30-day notice on our door. We would advise you now very strongly to stay within the law. Any further harassment by you will not be tolerated, and we will use every legal means to put a stop to it, legal and lawful. So, Louis, a word to the wise, you better do all this very lawfully. We are looking forward to beating you in court. You should have taken on the bank who sold you bogus papers, which we can prove, instead of trying to threaten and intimidate us to vacate what is rightfully ours. This is not going to happen. Once again, Louis, cease and desist from any further harassment. Court is the place to settle this. Your choices are the Supreme Court or civil court. Either one is fine with us. We are not intimidated by your bogus 30 days to leave notice without a court ruling, but we do see it as harassment, so cease and desist immediately. And in that thing where I said we're sending him some DVD copies in which he's mentioned, and we will do a new show on this new 30-day unlawful notice to intimidate us, and we will tell our audience that this unlawful 30-day notice came from Louis Zazzarino. And if anything should happen to us, we want our viewers to know who is threatening us, not to mention SEO, search engine optimization, on your name on the internet. So if you would like to view these files online, Google Louis Zazzarino, Paula Gloria, or Joe Barton. While you are at our freedomfirstparty.net website, check out Rod class on bank fraud. Go to Google and type in Paula Gloria Raja, R-A-J-A, who testified before Congress on banking foreclosure fraud. Now, let me mention something about search engine optimization.
Wait, before you go there, let me jump in just 1 second. And I love Paula because she's so funny. Not only did she send this to Louis, but she sent it to Jennifer Eckert, who's part of the,
Well, that's very interesting. Jennifer Eckert was with Bora Goldstein, Altshuler, Nahans, and Godel, and Joe says that's abuse right there that we now know that name. And she left that law firm. She joined another law firm. That law firm apparently was for the board.
Right.
But now, if this was sold, it seemed as though there was another strain coming through from Shapiro, DeCaro, and Barak, and she definitely wasn't the attorney for them. So who's we need Dukas taken. We need to find out what's going on here.
Let me finish saying why I love Paula, because she's so funny. She's sending it to Jennifer Eckert, and then Tenenbaum, Berger, and Shivers, who are his lawyers. She's also sending it to, and I love this, the FBI Fraud Investigation Division. All right. Frank D. Vance, who's he?
He's the
Office of the Controller of the Currency.
Comptroller of the Currency. He's really important.
And she's sending it to the Gramercy Park Owners Corp. Carol Tachilla, who's Argo Management, right? Renell Randall and Karen Fleming
McDowell. Those are two actual...
Securities and Exchange Commission, right?
Oh, I've been whittling away at this for a long time.
Right, and Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, right? And Doris Lincomb of the Supreme Court, who was in the other case. But it's so funny because... Paula, she lets everybody know you committed stock fraud. Yeah, stock fraud. I'm going to tell the FBI. You know what I mean? She's not just... Paula's a fighter. And all you people out there really should learn a lesson from good old Paula.
Yeah.
Fight these people. Don't roll over when they come after you. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
For sure. No, definitely. But I just wanted to say with search engine optimization... Well, actually, before that, this is actually a rather slim proof of service. Usually I have around 35, but I just wanted to minimize to give you a chance to correct your wily ways, Louis Zazzarino. Although I don't know what we're going to do about the board. I think the board's got to go. I just don't see any way out of it. What are you going to do?
Yeah, well...
I mean, what are you going to do?
When the board acts in a criminal manner... then the board should go. And all you people out there who have co-ops, you should look into what your board's activities are, and if they're acting in a criminal manner, take them on. Get them out of there. Most of you people out there, it's what really blows my mind about a lot of the American people is the bankers can rip you off for big money. The co-op people, the boards can rip you off for big money. But if some little guy steals $1 from you, you're ready to kill him. You know, you're ready to fight. You're ready to, that guy stole $5 from me. I'm going to get him. But yet, you back down from the banks who are stealing your real wealth. You back down from these co-op boards that are stealing your blind. And yet...
You never question a lawyer?
Right.
Whose loyalty is to the bar and to the court before you? You never question what you're being told.
Right.
It's sad.
Yeah.
Now, you want to say anything?
Go ahead, no, go.
Search engine optimization. For all of the people on my 2000 list of my Earthlink account, Earthlink makes you sign a special form when you send out bulk emails. And what they're trying to do is get everything on these social platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and all of that, because they can control that more easily. If people just had good email etiquette, you could, with email, accomplish a lot. So what they want to do at Earthlink is have me sign a form that gives away my rights to privacy. So every time I send out 2,000 emails, they shut me down and they say, oh, our fraud department has discovered that you had a hacker. And I keep writing back and saying, well, why doesn't your fraud department give me the IP address of the hacker? Because I've asked you about this before and I've told you before. I'm sending out a lot of emails. There is no hacker. It's me. I'm not spamming. And you're not acting on this. Now, the reason that they're not acting on it is because I believe that all of the big telecommunications companies get together after they've purchased for, some measly millions of dollars from some pointy-headed intellectual in Berkeley, California, living in the hills, thinking that he's invented something that's now benefited his country. What they do is these big telecommunication companies gang up and they pool their intellectual property that they either gave a lot of money for or maybe swindled, because I know software developers who definitely got swindled too. And they're saying, before you can enjoy the new age, before you can enjoy your civilization in this day and age, you have to give up your rights. Otherwise, you can't get on this wonderful email. Now, when I joined up with Earthlink, I certainly didn't think that my account wouldn't be private. I had the illusion that I had a password, so it would be private. Well, it is private if you make it private. You say, you have no permission to be in my email. So if they have no permission to be in your email, you haven't given it, then anything they gleaned from your email, they stole. They stole it from you. And and then through due process, you can start to correct that. So that's why people have been so frustrated. They say, Paula, can't you just break down, surrender to the God of Google and so on? If I did, Joe, I just got to spit this out. Or, okay, I'll elaborate. But don't let me lose my thought.
No, I wanted you to get this done so we can break for a commercial.
Oh, okay. And this will be a good commercial after this. Search engine optimization. When I put Louis Zazzarino into Google, Zazzarino, you're going to see all of his Facebook, all the correct social engineering platforms. When I put Louis Zazzarino and Joe Barton, I don't get any of Louis Zazzarino's sanitized professional Facebook and all of this. But when I take Paula Gloria, my trademark that I worked for 6 years before Facebook made me Paula Gloria 794, before YouTube is trying to foreclose keep me out of my 5 million hit YouTube account. By keeping Paula Gloria together, not separated, when you put Louis Zazzarino, Paula Gloria, now you start to get him coming up with his social sites and Facebook. So that means if I stay completely off of Facebook, off of YouTube and so on, keep my powerful trademarked name and develop myself as a whistleblower, that means anytime somebody who we've managed to reach, and we have a sort of an elite crowd in these chat rooms, unless they sound like a farmer from, the center of America, we don't trust those slick bankers in New York. That's where we've learned from, are the farmers, the honest people, the contractors producing something. So that's why search engine optimization is so important. Joe Barton hasn't been at it long enough, and if you put Joe Barton in Louis Zazzarino, you're not going to get all of the cross-marketing. I want people to know what Louis Zazzarino is doing, and that's the power of publicity to your communities. You must have standing in the real-life community.
And we have to break now for a commercial, but watch this commercial because it's the best commercial that we know of. and we'll be right back.
Hi, we're your local high-speed internet and cable provider. Are you looking for a fast, reliable internet connection? A large selection of your favorite HD TV channels? With 24/7 access to the best customer support technicians, all at a fair price? Fuck you. You'll take what we give you. You'll have the option of choosing from several of our completely unwarranted rip-offs, including internet speeds up to 200 times slower than Korea at twice the price, TV packages with over 500 channels, 90% of which you can't view, and we guarantee a plethora of hidden fees. Then, our barely trained technicians will come to install your services somewhere between the hours of 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. Knock once while you're in the shower, and promptly leave. And once we do finally get your service up and running, it'll be down and limping within 3 hours. Indefinitely. Why, you ask? Simple. We are part of what is called an oligopoly. It's like a monopoly, only legal. See, in closed-door meetings with 4 or 5 of the other major providers, we've secretly agreed not to have differing prices, allowing us to completely eliminate any competition and collectively raise our prices to optimum cockbag levels. Because we here at your local high-speed internet and cable provider don't believe in customer satisfaction. We believe in money. Pools of money. Looking for a better deal? You can all gobble down our balls. You're paying for it. Your local high-speed internet and cable provider. You won't like it, and there's no other option.
Okay, we're back again.
Okay.
So, now Joe and I have been talking about why
Why is America,
Okay.
before you start,
Do the rest.
why is America so dumb? Why are the people out there, they don't know what's going on with the banking. They don't know what's going on with the politicians. They're either watching football and baseball, and they don't have a clue about anything else, or we got this. You can find it in every... You can find it when you go in the supermarket on every store, and there's 20 different... This is just one, okay, and there's about 50 different kinds of these. And the reason that America is so stupid is because all they care about is 5 things. And then Paula's going to tell you what those 5 things are.
Let me see if I can remember them all. Okay. Who's having sex with who, right? Who is splitting up from who? Who is gaining weight? Who is losing weight? And what was the diet that they used?
Right. And that's all you women out there care about.
Women. I see men
Women buy
buying
this.
More women, okay.
Right. I already hit the men. They're watching baseball and
Oh, tits
football,
and
and they're
ass.
stupid and watching car wrecks, and that's all that's all they know, and they're not involved in what's going on. And you women out there, this is what you're doing.
I'll put it on the green screen. So.
Is this really making you intelligent? Is this really giving you something? And I don't want to just go against OK. There's about 50 of these magazines. They all got different names, but they always got the same celebrities on there. Do you really give a shit what celebrity is sleeping with what celebrity? I mean, is that the most important thing in your life? Yet you people keep buying this stuff, and you go through it like it's important, like Jen's going to have a baby, and her old man left. Oh, shit, my life is destroyed. You people are nuts. Get a real life. Get into your own life. Forget about these celebrities and what's going on with them, what diet they're on, who gained weight, who's got some cellulite. Oh, shit. Cellulite. My God, that star has cellulite.
What do you think, Randy, about this show and about the folks and the Cuomo and any...
No, I think you've pretty much said it all. I think it's very revealing what you indicated tonight about that they want you to go through every other drug possible before you could possibly get medical marijuana in New York State. The rest of the media certainly is just talking about certain hospitals and other restrictions, but they're not saying what those other restrictions are. Right. So that was very illuminating. I'm disappointed, but it's just another step, and eventually it's going to be free. It's going to not be illegal and criminal because as we all know, the government lags about 20 or 30 years behind the population.
I think this show in particular is a good example of EGG, Education and Government on the PEG channels. What do you think, Randy? I mean, education.
It's
Yeah.
educational. It's what education should be. But that's one of the problems that I have with separating the education from community, because a lot of the real grassroots education, pun intended, comes from the community and not from the educators.
The educator.
That's right.
Right.
That's what I think of them.
And we need you people out there in television land to get educated and start doing your homework, learn law, take these people on, stand up for your rights. Like Bob Marley says, get up, stand up, don't give up the fight, fight for your rights. This is Joe Barton for Pot Talk TV and Paula Gloria, my true love, saying good night.
Good night.
You've been watching Pot Talk with Joe Barton, starring Joe Barton, also starring Paula Gloria. We wish that you would remember to tune in next week at the same time on this same marginally heated channel for more Pot Talk TV, which is a Manifestation production.